plus 3 trips to the NIT. SEMO fans right now, if you told me in the next 10 years we're going to the NCAA 5 times with 3 trips to the NIT, everybody here would take that. Everybody.
Those are good seasons. People
that's right.
Be at the games watching.
That's right. The second team that I looked at, Northern Iowa. Northern Iowa has 11,928 students, so less than SEMO. They've been to the NCAA tournament 04, 05, 06, 09, 2010, 2015, 2016. So you've got 7 trips there to the NCAA tournament since the 2004 season. So basically every other year for the last 15 years they're going to the tournament, and they had 1 trip to the NIT. I mean, that's more success than SEMO's had in their whole program's history. And again, people will think, well, Northern Iowa, they're just a cut above us. Now, they are in the Missouri Valley. That's a better league than OVC. But prior to 2004, they'd never been to the tournament. And what happened is they had 1 roster. They had 1 group of kids come through. They started having success.
Yeah.
And then they took that and went from there. 3 of their 5 starters on that first team in 03 or 04 were from within an hour or less of campus. So this would be like 3 of the starters from SEMO being from the Boot Hill to, up in that Festus area.
Right.
Like this is
just
like
right before St. Louis.
For the people who want us to recruit local kids, they did. 3 of their 5 starters were really close. And all 5 of their starters were within 200 miles or less of campus. The other 2 starters, 1 kid was from Chicago, the Chicago area, which is from their campus, about 200 miles. And then the other kid was from Minneapolis, or a suburb of Minneapolis. So, and if you look at their, their roster, again, look at their recruiting plan. They had a lot of kids on that roster right there from right there in Iowa, very close to campus.
Right.
And if they did branch out, they went to Chicago, they went to Minneapolis. They had some other Illinois kids from right across the line. And just want to point out, there was 1 kid on that team from Arcadia Valley, Missouri, by the name of Chris Foster. So there's one that made his way all the way up to Northern Iowa. When you talk about kids that got away,
local. Yeah.
Chris Foster was a stud. He would have been a stud at SEMO. And so there's a kid we let get away that ended up going to the NCAA tournament a couple of times for them, had a great career. And so anyway, I saw Chris Foster play in high school. They got beat by Derek Tipler, Ronald Ranson, that whole group from New Madrid County Central when those guys were sophomores.
Yeah.
They were 27-2, had a heck of a team, got beat by New Madrid. But Chris Foster ends up at Northern Iowa. And again, you look at their blueprint for recruiting, a school about our size, not a big campus, probably not the same college town that Cape Girardeau is, not located on Interstate 55 between St. Louis and Memphis.
Right. It's in Iowa.
And you look at what they were able to do and look what they continue to do. And then the last school that I picked, SIU.
Yeah.
They're right across the river. Here's an obvious comparison. Now, SIU's 14,000 students, a little over. So they're a couple thousand students bigger than SEMO. If we're 1A, they're 2A. They're a little bigger than us. But SIU, they have been to the tournament 02, 03, 04, 05, 06, 07. They had an amazing run there of 6 years in a row, and a couple of those years where, they either won games, they made one really good run in the tournament.
Right.
And again, if you look at their roster, first of all, look at them compared to Northern Iowa. 04, 05, 06, they both went to the tournament out of the same league. The Valley was really tough then with both of them going. Chris Lowry coaching there. You had Bruce Weber that come through there. I mean, they've had some good coaches come through SIU.
Yeah.
But SIU, 3 of their 5 starters on that first team that they had that went were within 100 miles or less of campus. They were Southern Illinois kids. If you look at their roster, they went local or they went Indianapolis, which is fairly close, St. Louis, which is 100 miles from their campus,
or
they went to Chicago, which is, in-state for them, And again, you get some kids from Chicago that maybe, some low-hanging fruit, the third kid on a loaded team, something like that.
Yeah.
Just overlooked, and they were able to get a lot of those kids. I mean, and I want to point out, and this is where I said I wish I was smart enough. I wish I had thought of this. This was pure coincidence. There was a 6'9" forward on that first team from SIU by the name of Brad Korn, who just got hired to be the coach of SEMO. And so he was on that team.
And, his best season I read was as a fifth-year senior.
That's right.
He started. He didn't really get a lot of playing time, and he worked and turned out his best season in that 1 year where they had a heck of a run, I think. And he was a fifth-year senior, so he might be in favor of those older guys, JUCO transfers and players like that.
Yeah, and so, he's going to have some connections there in Southern Illinois. That's where he's from, So, again, looking at our area, let's say we pull one kid from that part of Illinois every year, good player, good high school player.
And you got some teams over there, too, that got some teams in Southern Illinois.
That's right.
Carbondale High School, Centralia, all of them. There's Marion, Illinois. There's players over there.
Absolutely. And so say he pulls one from there. He gets a local kid every year. He gets a kid from one of the junior colleges every year. You're only going to sign in a given year, 4 or 5 kids. I mean, depending on, how many stay and things like that. So, I mean, right there's the backbone of your recruiting. If you get that going, you could have this program turned around in no time at all. And again, then all of a sudden, like you've seen in these other situations, you got the ball rolling. They won some games. They made it to the tournament. And then the recruiting picks up, then it gets a lot easier.
Yeah, it starts to recruit itself. Guys want to come here now.
Yeah, that's right.
But I think off the bat, you got to get people that want to be here. However you determine that, you got to figure it out. And hopefully, if you get one of these big guys, like Ray was able to get a couple guys that were good ball players that transferred out, you got to determine a way to know that they're going to stay, and you got to make them want to stay once they get here, and you got to keep selling them on why SEMO is great for them, even once they're here on campus, even after a year or 2 years. You got to keep them happy about the program, and sometimes that's more than just winning ball games.
That's right. That's right. And so I know.
I'll give you a local one real quick because, I think recruiting locally is great, but I'm also one of these people, I don't think the talent – some people say we got to recruit local to be good, and if SEMO would just recruit SEMO kids, they'd be good. And I don't really agree with that because a lot of people think if we just go out and fill the team with SEMO kids, they're going to go win D1 basketball games. And, that's not going to happen. We don't have that kind of talent just in SEMO to win a Division
You'd
I.
have to get every single kid. You'd have to get every single kid that was good. Every year.
Exactly. Right, and we're not going to get those guys because, like we said, they just don't want to stay home for whatever reason. Most 18-year-olds don't want to stay home. And then right now it's just not a school that, if you're a good ball player, that you want to go to be better. But I do think, like you kind of said earlier, every 2-3 years we got a good D1 basketball player that can go play. This year I don't know if there was really one in the area that was quite ready as a senior to go play that type of level from the guys that I've seen.
And you just said it. You just said the key word. That's maybe not quite ready. I'll give you a name. To me, the obvious kid, if you're looking for a D1 body, would be Blessing Kimball from Charleston.
Right.
6'6".
He scares me just because what is he at the next level? Is he a power forward or can he step out a little bit?
Well, he's right at that in between. I think the way the game has changed, teams are going a little smaller. He probably could be your 4. But here's the thing about Kimball, and I don't know him personally. I know Danny Farmer really well. I've never asked Coach Farmer this question. I've just heard other people say this, that he's a big time football recruit.
Oh, man, yeah.
And so if, let's say that he's a Mizzou football player and a SEMO basketball player.
He can go to Mizzou for sure.
So that's one of those things that, like we're talking about.
And that happens often too, I think, where, we might have that D1 level type of guy.
Like an Al Young.
Maybe better at another sport.
Al Young is a good example. Yeah. Al was a great athlete at Casey. He was a great player. But Al was a better football player than he was a basketball player. And so, I mean, because he was such a good athlete. And there's been several.
Well, I want to go back to checking off 2 boxes of your recruiting strategy, a JUCO guy and a local guy, all in one, and that's DeMarcus Sharp.
DeMarcus
Sharp signed with Missouri State.
That's right.
You know, he went, and coming out of high school, I love to watch DeMarcus Sharp play basketball. Those teams were fun to watch. He had a smoothness about his game that I liked, but I never would have guessed he was a Missouri State type of kid. But he went to JUCO, made himself a lot better. I think he was offensive player of the conference, MVP of the conference and all this stuff. He got a lot of awards out there this year and got an offer from Missouri State. Now he's, going out there, which Missouri State's another one of them schools that we could put in that list of comparisons to SEMO.
Sure.
What they do. I mean, and that's not very far. And if you look at not that they're world beaters or anything, but I'd say they have more success than SEMO throughout the years. Most of which are probably right around a 500 type of season, but every now and then they'll run off a 20-12 type of year. I think this year they were going to the NCAA tournament. So it's a little bit better program, and they get, a kid from Springfield, a kid from Tulsa, which is really close to Springfield, and an Arkansas kid. They're kind of local with who they recruit also out there, and then they go grab DeMarcus Sharp after he goes to junior college for 2 years and gets a lot better.
And another one, local kid. He's a local kid. He went to Three Rivers. Talon Fonda down at Three Rivers. Talon had a great season. I know I talked to some folks down there in their program that said that he had some good interest. I mean, like, over SEMO's head interest, Division I.
Yeah.
Talon's probably 6'4", 6'5". I mean,
he's a little bigger than that now.
Tremendous athlete, tremendous shooter. I actually coached his brother.
He expanded his game from high school. Talking about Bless and Kimball a while ago, Talon was kind of like that, and maybe a little bit better handle and a little bit better outside shot, but he wasn't nowhere near the perimeter player he is now.
That's right.
He was in high school, and he went to junior college, made himself better, and now he's a SEMO level kid or better.
And like I was saying, I coached his brother in high school. His brother Bolin Fonda was a 5'10" running back, just powerhouse, tremendous athlete, 20-point a game scorer. I mean, he was a great high school player. And I joke with Bolin anytime I see him, how did Talon end up that big and you didn't? Like if Bolin would have been that big, he would be in the NBA right now.
Right.
So, but yeah, Talon has turned into a heck of a player. And Talon is a kid who, again, let's say that you're SEMO and you recruited a kid like him or a DeMarcus Sharp all through high school, and they didn't pan out. I'll give you another example of a guy that they did this to is Dom Johnson. Dom Johnson, they recruited him, his entire senior year, and I'm not going to say the coach's name. I'm not going to throw him under the bus, but they told him. They came to our gym, sat in our gym and talked to us and said, "You're our number one guy." Now, this goes back to recruiting local and trying to get local kids to be loyal to you.
Yeah.
He said, "You're our number one guy, not our number one guard. You're the number one recruit on our board." So we opened up the newspaper one day, and Dom, he still was uncommitted, and SEMO had signed a guard from Vianney in St. Louis named Paul Paradowski. And I don't know Paul Paradowski. He was a good high school player. I saw him play. He had a fine career at SEMO, whatever. He did not have as good a career as Dom Johnson did. I'll say that. They signed Paul Paradowski. We read about it in the newspaper. We did not get a phone call, not get an explanation. And so later, whenever Dom went to Three Rivers, he was a junior college All-American. And after his 2 years there, they were begging him to come to SEMO, and he ended up with offers a lot better than SEMO. And I'll tell you this, the coach, and I won't say his name, but he used Kent State as an example. Back then, Kent State was going to the tournament, and making a lot of noise as a small school. And he said, Kent State, that's why they're so good every year. Their local guys are loyal. And my comment back to him was, you guys were you guys loyal to him 2 years ago when you signed Paul Paradowski?
Right.
You know what I mean? And so, you weren't loyal to him, but now that he's a lot better player than you thought he was going to be, you know, you want him to be loyal back to you. It doesn't work that way. And so it goes back to the whole thing, recruit local kids.